a conversation with Holly Williams about reporting on ISIS and the battle for Raqqa.
This place used to be a landmark in a peaceful city. Then ISIS turned it into a killing field.
When was the first time you tried to get into Raqqa?
So I think it was in April, early 2017. We knew that the SDF, these American-backed fighters, were getting closer and closer to Raqqa. What we saw was people just pouring out of Raqqa and the surrounding areas. So these are people who had been living under ISIS for 3+ years and finally had an opportunity to escape. And we were hoping that we would be able to get into Raqqa, which was an extraordinary thought because it was this place where, as someone who was a non-Muslim, you were probably going to die. Just the name Raqqa had started to make you feel fearful. And now we're inside Raqqa, and it's a really weird feeling. We were able to walk into Raqqa on foot through these quiet streets, deserted by residents. Although ISIS had left those areas where we were, I mean, there were kind of dangers lurking. First of all, my colleague Abdi Kadani was shot at.
They were shooting at me.
And then another colleague, Omar, had to run across this stretch of territory, which I guess was about 50 yards.
Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going.
You can hear the shots.
You can hear the shots. It was very frightening.
Am I all right? That was close.
Our team members have now made it back safely and we are leaving Raqqa. But one thing today is very clear. ISIS is not going to give this city up without a fight. Let's do it again. I think it was urban fighting. Oh, look. Get in the vehicles. Where are our vehicles? What was bizarre about it was that it was so obvious we were in people's homes. We've been in so many houses like this one during the battle for Raqqa. They've been turned into fighting positions. And you also realise how quickly a pretty normal life, I mean a life that we would recognise, turns into something very different. That's outgoing, right? The big bangs are always outgoing. It's the kind of ding, ding, that's incoming bullets.
Ah.
They're ISIS gunmen.
You're repeatedly going back to Raqqa during this period of intense fighting. These are assignments you're raising your hand to do.
Oh yeah, I really, really wanted to go there. I mean, I'd covered ISIS for 4 years. So when it looked like they were about to lose their, the so-called capital of their caliphate, I wanted to be there for sure.
Because
that's important. That's history being made. This group did enormous harm. The people they killed, the women they enslaved, the people they left without mothers and fathers, and the children who lost their lives. When the victory came, it actually took us by surprise. We arrived on the kind of outskirts of Raqqa to see these pickup trucks, screaming past us, full of SDF fighters giving us the victory sign and cheering and saying ISIS is gone. Our last day in Raqqa, actually, we had gone into Al Naim Circle, which is where ISIS used to carry out a lot of their most sort of brutal executions. What ISIS did here in Al Naim Circle was designed to terrorise. I think what the experience was scarring, being in Raqqa at that time. And I think that's true for the entire team. How many bodies are there? When the SDF had killed an ISIS fighter, as a sign of their disrespect for that person, they would leave the body to kind of rot and fester in the sun. So you can imagine the smell. Stray cats everywhere in the city. And the fighters repeatedly said to us, don't go near the cats because they're eating the dead bodies. We left the next day, actually, after that. The story was, finished. ISIS had lost control of Raqqa. I think we all needed quite a long time to sort of decompress.
So now you've returned to Raqqa with 60 Minutes and producer Keith Sharman.
How many times have you been to Raqqa?
So lots.
Why did you want to go back?
I wanted to go back and see what happens after ISIS leaves, and to try and communicate to people back here in the US what's going on over there.
America and its Kurdish allies here in Syria beat back ISIS and stabilised.
I looked at the footage, and if that's what victory looks like, it's pretty grim there.
Right, so you have to applaud people whose city is bombed into splinters.
Raqqa, Kifa?
And who yet go back and they're running their taxis and they're restarting their businesses and they're cooking their kebabs and they're rebuilding their houses.
Here's where you can see this building looks like it was probably smacked by an airstrike.
Completely destroyed.
And then you see this guy? Raqqa, Kifa?
We interviewed briefly this guy who's a tailor, and he's got his shop open again.
This is the story of hope in Raqqa. I mean, he's one of 3 million Syrians who fled to Turkey, and now he's come back and he's set up a business.
But how are they going to make this city function again? How do you rebuild schools and roads and bridges when you don't actually have that much money to do it?
Is it still sort of teetering on the brink? Could ISIS come back here?
Yes, clearly. No one questions that. That's for sure.